Clerk, Michael Willis.
Thank you.
You need water or anything?
No, I think I'm okay.
You can do holler.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's great to be here with you. So I'm the county clerk for Tulsa County. Most people, even folks who are as plugged in as you, because I know you are the plugged in of the plugged in folks in this community, a lot of folks don't understand what the county clerk does. So I'll give you a brief snapshot, and hopefully I don't put anyone to sleep when I talk about this, but I like to kind of say I'm the chief nerd of the county. I'm the keeper of the checkbook, the chief accountant, the chief record keeper for business records for the county. So when the commissioners or the budget board or any of our public bodies meet, I keep all those records, and my office administers those agendas for those public meetings. And speaking of, has anyone been following the Tulsa Public Schools nonsense that's been going on about their, I'm sure you all have, but I had a discussion yesterday at the Republican Women's Club with a woman who has been very critical of TPS and their record keeping and lack of agenda management. You know, they're supposed to file all their agendas with me, and they don't really do that all that often. It's really sad. I mean, but I take that part of my job super seriously, because we're in the business of conducting business on your behalf, and you should have access to your public officials when they conduct business. And so I'll try to hold the county at the highest level of scrutiny on that, because if you all want to come to one of our public meetings, I darn sure want to make sure that you know when it is, what's being discussed, and all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, we can't say the same thing for our largest public school system. But
President Willie out of Branch, you're just a clerk, she's a president.
Right, yeah.
You really have no oversight.
I'm kind of a flunky in the grand scheme, but but we try to make sure all that stuff gets out there and the word gets out for everyone. I'm the custodian of all land records. So any land record in the county, such as a deed, a mortgage, a lien, an assignment, a lease, you know, you name it. There's all different types of deeds that are on file and recorded in my office. We keep all those things in perpetuity. It sounds like an easy function, but we record every year. This year, the real estate business is down a little bit because mortgage rates are up, but we'll probably still record 160,000 different documents that somehow affect real estate. So we have to index those and make sure they go into the public record accurately and timely. At the height of the real estate boom, we were indexing, you know, probably 175,000 or so thousand documents per year. So I got a great staff that handles that for me. We make the county's payroll. We do all the accounts payable. We pay about 32,000 bills on behalf of the county every year. I like to say that I try to empower our county other elected officials and departments, such as the sheriff's office, the treasurer, the highway department, and all those folks with actually being able to do their job, because we pay their bills on their behalf. And so we have a pretty good sized operation. I have about 40 employees, and we're pretty darn busy every day. But one of the things that you all are probably aware of, because if you're like me, sometimes you're up in the middle of the night, and I know that Peggy and I have talked a little bit about this before, months ago, but deed fraud and title fraud is on the rise in the U.S. I'm part of a group called the Property Records Industry Association. It's made up of about half elected officials and government officials like me that are custodians of records, and about half private sector companies that are like mortgage companies, title companies, software companies, and folks that deal in land records. And every year we go to conferences to try to learn about what's going on, the latest thing, and every year we hear new examples of deed fraud. Now, I'm going to get into my PowerPoint here a little bit, but before I forget, Rhonda did remind me, sometimes I do forget to mention this. If we have any veterans or active military in the room, or if you have friends or family that are active military or veteran, please suggest that they bring their military discharge papers to the Tulsa County Clerk's office, if they live in Tulsa County. If they don't, tell them they can still come to Tulsa County, but it might be more convenient for them to go to their own county. The county clerk's office will receive and file a copy of the military discharge papers, and we keep it in a lockbox. So For example, if Scott had a family member who was a military veteran, then Scott would be able to access that document, but Donna would not necessarily be able to access that document. So it's only for direct family members or the actual veteran themselves. And you say, well, why is that important? Well, it's important because oftentimes, and this is a sad lesson that I learned when I first started my job, is that we will have a veteran that needs assistance, they need benefits, they need some sort of service that the VA or some other organization offers, and if they can't find, or they've lost, or they misplaced, or a family member has and they whatever can't find their discharge papers, oftentimes they have to wait. And the most concerning and sad thing that I've witnessed is I had a woman come in my office. I'd been in office for about 3 weeks, I think, and I was out front trying to learn about recording documents and whatever. She came in teary-eyed and she said, you know, I need a copy of my husband's DD-214. And I was standing there next to my deputy that was helping her, and so she got the information, we looked it up, well, we didn't have it. And well, so the tears started to flow more, and I said, well, ma'am, you know, what's going on? She said, well, my husband died 2 days ago, and I really want him to be able to have military honors at his service. But without that document, I can't necessarily prove to the VA or whichever branch, I can't remember that it was, that he was in the service. And so without that, I can't get those servicemen and women to show up to handle the honors. And I mean, that was a punch to the gut for me. And so I try to tell everyone, if you know anyone, have them bring that to us, because we'll give them free. We do this for free. The state legislature allows us to do it for free. And we can also provide as many free certified copies as they want. So a certified copy with our seal on it is as good as the original document. So if you know anyone that could take advantage of that, please suggest to them that we would love to provide that service for them. I'll even buy them a cup of coffee if they show up and ask for me. So let's talk a little bit about deed fraud. You know, sometimes I'm up at 2 or 3 a.m., unfortunately, and a lot of the times if you're like, I'm a nerd and watch the History Channel, well, there's either like a coin vendor or a knife vendor or LifeLock doing a infomercial on the History Channel at about 2 or 3 a.m. And there's this craze of deed fraud going on, and it really is a big problem around the country. And what happens is, you know, people will fraudulently take property from others by creating a fraudulent deed and taking that to a county clerk or county recorder, whatever they're called in that state's office, and file that deed, record it, and then bad things happen from there. And so, you know, oftentimes people will falsely claim heirship of a property. They'll use a quitclaim deed, which we actually have quitclaim, general warranty deed, and other forms available on our website. You can go buy those also at you know, office supply warehouses like Staples and Office Depot and those sorts of places, or you can go see an attorney or a title company, and they can prepare one of those for you as well. But they'll fill out a fraudulent deed, take it to a notary. Do we have any notaries? So, yes. I hope you're all keeping your book of information about who you notarize for, because if someone were ever to, you know, trick you, now I'm sure Rhonda's not going to get tricked, but there are plenty of people out in Tulsa County that do get tricked into signing or notarizing a document that has been fraudulently executed, either from a fake ID or someone just showing up and saying, hey, you've known me for years. You know, I'm going to sign this deal, this is mine, and I'm going to deed my house to Donna. And so I sign my name, and I might sign, you know, Sherry Anderson on my deed, and then they all of a sudden, you know, Donna's the owner of Sherry's house, so she takes it to the county clerk's office and records it and all that kind of stuff. So we have fraudulent notaries, folks that are negligent or actually committing fraud, that are becoming a problem. Going to the next slide here, and I'll talk about this nationwide versus Oklahoma here in a minute, because we don't have the problems in Oklahoma that there are nationwide. I'll go ahead and tell you that through my interaction with this organization, I'm a member of the Property Records Association. States like Michigan, Iowa, Arizona. Actually, I'm wrong about Iowa. Iowa's not one. But Arizona and Michigan are some of the hotbeds of some of this deed fraud, and it's because they don't have abstracting anymore. Talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but they don't do title searches all the way back before they can make a property transaction. And the abstracting requires you to do a full update of the history of a property, everything that has ever happened with that property. So for example, I live over in West Tulsa, around 81st and 33rd West Avenue. And so if you trace my deed to my house and my abstract all the way back, you get to a Muskogee Creek Nation allotment deed that originally was 160 acres that was allotted to an allottee of the Muskogee Nation back in probably the late 1800s. So everything, that's why when people say, well, my abstract is this thick. Well, the reason it's that thick is because it's starting from like the beginning of time as it relates to our country and our state and this area. So abstracting is a big deal, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Potential targets for deed fraud, properties that are vacant. So if you own rental properties and they're ever vacant for very long, keep an eye on them. I mean, keep an eye out for statements that might come in the mail about different things. And I'm going to show you here in a little bit a couple of tools that my office has employed here recently that will help you do that. Properties with out-of-state owners, folks recently deceased homeowners, and also with that, we've found several examples in Tulsa County of properties that are affected when an elderly family member is transitioning to like assisted living, for example, and the house is left vacant for a little while, especially when there have been caretakers involved. So sometimes those caretakers will become fraudsters, and they'll try to become buddies with, their patient or their person, and they may try to do the whole, oop-de-oop deal where they prepare a deed and they say, oh, well, Mrs. Smith, if you'll just sign this paper, this is part of, whatever. And then they've got a friend who is a notary who's willing to notarize it without looking at anybody's ID or watching someone sign. And then that starts a whole big problem for that whole family. Properties with incarcerated homeowners as well, a little bit of an issue. We'll talk a little bit more about the nationwide side of things. FBI back in 22 reported almost $400 million in losses. Some of the remote notary things that are going on in the country are part of this as well. Remote and mail closings are part of the problem. But again, back in areas like Arizona and Michigan, what you have are, they do very limited title research when a property transaction is happening. So for example, if I were going to try to steal a property, then I might locate that property that I'm kind of targeting, get my paperwork all filled out, get a signature somehow, get a notary, and file that paperwork with the county recorder there in Michigan. And then I run down to the Bank of Michigan and say, hey guys, check out this house that I just bought for, I got a great deal on it. It's a $100,000 house, but the county assessor has this thing appraised at $250,000. I want to do some work on this house, so I'd like for you to go ahead and provide me a loan for $100,000 on this house. And unfortunately, in Michigan and Arizona and a few others, these banks and mortgage companies are saying, okay. And so they write the check. Well, where do you think that person's going? They don't really care about the house. They care about that $50, $100, however much $1,000 they've got in their pocket, and they roll on. Now, do they ever get caught? Yes. But a lot of the times, that's the real motivation here, is just trying to cash out of the deal. And they really don't care that much about the house. Now, sometimes they do. That's another thing, but that's what is happening. That's what's creating this craze of why you need LifeLock and why you need title protection and identity protection, which the identity protection is probably not a bad deal. Everybody knows and hears about that kind of stuff. But anyway, here on the local level, I will tell you that, I'll talk a little bit more about abstracting. So in Oklahoma, if when anyone goes to buy a property here, the bank of whoever or whoever's mortgage company, they're not just going to write you a check based on, unless it's a real fishy situation, they're not going to write you a check for the value of the property. They're going to require an independent appraisal. They're going to require a full update of the abstract to ensure that there's not an outstanding lien, or there's something where another lender or someone else who has a mortgage on the property right now are going to take some sort of loss. So they go back and do a very thorough examination of that, and that really prevents a lot of this from happening like it does in other places. Like I said, the biggest culprit are those vacant properties, ones where folks are transitioning from one house to another, or moving in with a family member, folks with health issues, those sorts of things. We in my office, I know that you all will hopefully appreciate this. I have to, by law, follow every state statute related to county clerking. That's my job. I'm not the creator of those policies. We lobby the legislature for things quite a bit. I'm going to tell you about a bill here in a bit that we're working on to help get some of these notary issues under control. But more importantly, I think it's my job to try to protect the citizens of Tulsa County. And so we have created a notary no-fly list. I'll just tell you a name. We've got a woman named Janetta who lives in North Tulsa, and she doesn't check anything. I literally could walk up to this woman and tell her, my name is Rhonda, and I'm buying this and whatever, and if I sign Rhonda on my deal, she will notarize the fire out of it every single time. And so we have people who will bring deeds in with Janetta's notary on it, and we just tell them, no thanks. And they say, well, how can you do that? And I'm like, well, because I said. It's my job. I do have the ability under state statute to do what? It is sometimes good being the boss, I say, well, I think this is a sham legal process, and the law grants me the authority to identify something as a sham legal process. And I tell them, we're not going to accept a document notarized by Janetta. Now, if you want to bring the person in who you're buying the property from and have them sign it sign the deed in front of one of our notaries at the office, more than glad to do that. And we've even offered some folks that there's a lot of folks that unfortunately go to Janetta, a few of the others, who have honest deals going on. We've just gotten burned a few times, and we're done getting burned. So anyway, we'll waive our $5 fee to re-notarize a document for them if they want to come in and do it the right way. And so we've created the no-fly list, which has gotten me in a little bit of heat with several of the notaries that, a lot of them, especially we've got several folks, that are making largely their living off notarizing documents. I'm just unwilling to take the chance to let one of you all be victimized because someone is lazy about doing their job. So anyway, we also, what was that?
Rhonda on the list?
No, Rhonda's not on the list. Do you notarize very many deeds?
Is that how you get rich off of $5 a pop?
Well, here's the funny thing. So Janetta, bless her heart, she charges $20. Of course, if you're trying to commit fraud, $20 is cheap, right? But she also sells clothing at her house too. So, she's got a dual thing going. Also, we also have a recording notification service that I'm going to show you on my website here in a few minutes. And it's really cool because you can sign up for that. Now, I can't do, everything that we can try to employ will not always 100% prevent someone from taking some sort of fraudulent action. However, the recording notification system we have will notify you immediately, and that really, the time is a real big deal, because I don't want anyone to have to go to the expense of hiring an attorney and go take this to court and send with the ultimate end of that is that a judge will send me a court order that says, so-and-so's property is hereby restored to that person's, title and ownership, and then we file that in the county clerk's office, but it's costly and it takes a lot of time. But we do have this cool recording notification service. If you own 10 homes or 10 properties, you can sign up for all of them on there. You'll be emailed immediately. Sometimes, I don't know if has anyone ever had a lien filed on their property, maybe without notice? Sometimes that happens. Now, we have to, Rhonda, I know you in your business, you file some liens from time to time. Sometimes I have a friend that lives up the street from me who was building a house. He had some liens on his house that he didn't know about because they were filed, some against the builder, some against him. And so anyway, this recording notification service will notify you immediately if anything gets filed on your parcel of property. So it's pretty cool. So we talked a little bit about abstracting, but essentially, the key is it pulls all the details in of the property from before statehood to current. So abstracting is important in Oklahoma. We don't want to get rid of that. A lot of people get irritated at the fact that we do abstracting in Oklahoma because it does take longer to do a property transaction. In some of these other states, you can do a transaction a lot quicker. For me, I'd rather have the peace of mind of making sure it's done pretty well the right way. So there's that. Local stories, we talked a little bit about some of the stuff. We had an issue in Oklahoma County. Well, let's see, did I go too far? Yeah. Where some of our friends in Oklahoma County experienced an issue where some folks were charged federal charges because they had done a big scheme and basically taken control of multiple properties. I think it was 12. They claimed they purchased them at auction after filing fraudulent warranty deeds, conveying the properties to, they were pretty complicated in their action because they actually created some companies and individuals that didn't really exist that they were conveying these properties to and then taking control of them. And overall, it ended up impacting 12 homes. And so that potentially was 12 different families that were impacted. And, they did all kinds of things like eviction notices, forcing homeowners out of their own properties. It was probably the biggest issue or deal like this we've had in Oklahoma. Unfortunately for these people, or fortunately, they ended up all going to jail. Sometimes I don't have a lot of great things to say about the FBI, but they made it happen on this one. They put these folks in jail for quite a while. In Tulsa County, I'll tell you a couple of funny stories to me. Now, I'll have to tell you that my community relations manager, her name is Maggie, she's great. She put this together. She took real names out of this. I actually like to promote the people's real names because when they make major screw-ups, I generally think they're pretty calculated in what they do, and I think that the community deserves to know who they are. So we had a guy, and this example that's on the screen, y'all can read. I won't talk a whole lot about it, but we had a guy that has been into our office many times. His name is Cody Scroggins, and I'm pretty sure, and this is no offense to Mr. Scroggins, but I'm pretty sure Cody Scroggins cannot read. But I believe he's being put up to doing what he's doing by someone else, and we're trying to figure this out. And some of you have known me for a while know that in my volunteer time, I'm a reserve law enforcement officer. I was with the Tulsa Police Department for 12 years and been a reserve sheriff's deputy for 3. And so I'm working, we're going to work this out. We're going to figure out kind of who's behind this, and it's going to be fun to bust them when we do. But Mr. Scroggins shows up to the office numerous times with very, very skeptical looking documents. It's sketchy, very sketchy. And we've asked him to come back with the person who is trying to convey the property to him, because we just don't really have a very good feeling about what's going on with this deal. And yeah, it very well could be. He may be in bed somehow with Janetta. Now he knows not to use Janetta's notary because we won't take that. And we've got several others that we won't take, but he's come in before and tried to do some stuff. He had someone with him one time who he was going to try to get our office to notarize a document. Well, that person conveniently didn't have their ID on them. And they had no means, we had no way of telling, who they were or whatever. And we wouldn't notarize it. And he was just dumbfounded why we would not do that. And I've got a really very skilled, and she's been doing this for a long time, my real estate services director. She's also has kind of a cop attitude towards some of these things, and she investigates this stuff and looks into it, and she starts asking him questions. Well, he can't answer any of these questions about what's going on. And so Mr. Scroggins has been in the office 2 or 3 times, and we've mostly refused to file his stuff. Now, do any of you all remember or know Richie Gonzalez? Used to be Richie Stewart. He was on the Bixby City Council. So Richie has been a reserve officer for a long time, but he's now a full-time sheriff's deputy with the sheriff's office. And Richie is amazing. If you don't know Richie, he's just wonderful. I mean, if we had 50 Richies out on the street, things would be a whole lot better in Tulsa County. Richie has actually gone to see Mr. Scroggins for me, and we caught Mr. Scroggins, and Richie charged him with uttering a forged instrument, took him to jail. So we're not playing with these people that show up and try to do silly things and try to steal our good tax-paying, members of citizens, residents of Tulsa County. Good old Mr. Scroggins. I don't know if he'll be back in the office or not, but anyway, but we have several folks like him that have come in and tried to do some of these things, and we try to do as much dissuading as possible. And of course, the dumbest ones are the ones we catch the easiest because they're the low-hanging fruit. But we are trying to do as much as we can. We have, I mentioned to you, we have the no-fly list, and we got numerous notaries. I think we anytime float between 5 and 10. And I'll tell you more about the notary thing. And I've already told you all I'm the chief nerd of the county, so I'm not trying to put anyone to sleep. But the notary thing is interesting because lots of people do different things to affect this fraudulent notary deal. Some folks will just go order a notary stamp. Charity, are you a notary? Well, if you went to Office Depot tonight, you probably could be, kind of.
They don't ask you for any confirmation or
Yeah. And so, you could go get a notary stamp. And so, and what we've done, it takes us a lot of time. But when we get a new notary coming in, and again, I mentioned to y'all, we're receiving 170,000 documents per year. Now, not all of those are deeds and quit claim or warranty deeds, but a whole bunch of them are. I would say at least, 30, 40,000 of them are. Anytime we receive those documents in that are not coming from like a closing company or a title company or whatever, we're calling the Secretary of State's office to make sure that the notary is a real notary. So if I got one tomorrow that said Charity Marcus on it, then we'd probably not, well, not probably, we wouldn't accept that because, Charity's not going to be on the list of approved and bonded notaries. So that's, some of the links that we're taking to try to do a little bit of extra research. I mentioned to you before that one of the reasons we have an issue going on is because really there's not a lot of, we don't have a lot of backup from the legislature and in the state law to put some teeth into the notary law. Now there's other states in the union that have very, very strict laws surrounding their notaries. It is a little bit difficult to become a notary, and I think it should be more difficult here. Right now we have, last year we proposed the Notary Enforcement Act. It is Senate Bill 556. It made it all the way through the process last year, but when the House and Senate got in that, kerfluffle, I had another word for it, but problem at the end of the year when we're fighting about budgets and education and all this nonsense they should have taken care of early. A couple of our things that are pretty important to property rights in Oklahoma got shuffled off to the side. The Senate Bill 556 is authored by Senator John Hast. Has been very helpful to us, and Representative Lonnie Sims. He's actually my rep over in West Tulsa. And it's just waiting floor action on the House. We think we're going to get that passed as soon as the House starts taking action on some of the Senate bills from last year. We think we'll get that done and get it off the governor and get it signed. Yes, Peggy?
So in my former life, I was a notary for about 20, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my memory of it is the whole process was pretty loosey-goosey.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I just used a notary bonding company and I just sent the paperwork in, I got the stamp on it. But I got no training, and no training was required. Are you starting to require some training about how to handle notary business?
We would like to do that. I will tell you that this bill, that as it exists today, is not what it was when I presented it to the Senate. Senator Hast took it forward to us. I believe the chairman of the Rules Committee, I think it was, is Senator Brent Howard from the Stillwater area. And he's an attorney and he's also a notary. And he was not that interested in ratcheting down much on the notary laws, surprisingly, not really. And so we had it listed that if anyone actually could be proven to have committed fraud, that they could be charged with a felony. He changed that to a misdemeanor. And then we had a couple of other provisions. I'm trying to remember exactly what they were. The fine associated with it was going to be higher. He lowered it. Really, honestly, I mean, like most other things, we're going to take baby steps at this. We're going to get past whatever we can get past, and then we're going to try to take it up from there.
But you're in favor of having some kind of formal...
Oh, Lord, yes.
Some kind of education for notaries.
And frankly, higher scrutiny for bonding. I mean, if someone is proven to have squandered their duties as a notary, then the insurance company or somebody needs to pay for that.
Well, as I recall, the bonding fee was maybe $100.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Is there no
Yeah.
criminal penalty for committing a fraudulent notary? I mean, for the notary to
Well,
participate?
uttering the forged document, being associated with that, Richie has helped us get some of those things off the ground. That's really all we can stand on right now. I've met with D.A. Kunzweiler, and I work well with Steve on lots of things. This is not high priority, to him, and I get it, but then I don't, because again, we're talking about, there have not been that I can determine too many successful cases where someone has truly stolen someone's property and really gotten away with it. But if it did happen, we're talking about, in most people's cases, in my case for sure, the greatest asset I own is my $200,000 house over in West Tulsa. If someone just stole that out from under me, man, I'm going to be freaking mad. And you all would be too. And I mean, I'm ready to hurt somebody over an issue like that. So I mean, you're talking about life, liberty, and property. That's a big deal. And so we're trying to lean on Steve to be able to help us, especially if we get this other bill, the Senate Bill 556 passed, and really start taking it to some people and making some examples out of this to show people that we're not just messing around. And your notary is far more serious. I mean, this is your point, Peggy. I mean, it's a way bigger deal than a lot of people think, because again, any one of us in this room could call and get that $100 notary bond and send our application off to the Secretary of State. When I started this whole issue of trying to figure out the notary thing, I called the Secretary of State. He's Brian Bingman. He used to be mayor of Sapulpa. I went to Sapulpa High School. He presented awards at my high school assembly, and his daughter's a friend of mine, and Brian's a good guy. I called him and I said, hey, I need to figure out what happens if you have a notary that does something bad. And he's like, well, I don't really know, because that's not really a big thing in my office. I'm like, well, you are the be-all, end-all of notary stuff in Oklahoma. And so I called somebody else on his office that works with that, and they're like, yeah, we don't really do anything with the list of notaries. And I'm like, so what if someone's proven to be a fraudulent notary? Do you still let them be an approved notary on your list?
What is the fee? I think that Scott probably knows. It seems like the last time I renewed my notary, the fee to the state was like $20, $25, something
So
like
actually, I
that.
don't know what the fee is because I never went to.
It's something like that. In fact, I think it's $25 because I have notaries in my office and we pay for them to have their bonding and their fee. So it's $125 total, I think.
$5 or so.
Yeah,
The most important thing was the most expensive thing was the stamp.
right. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, it is, I know it seems like it's a menial little thing, but it can be a big deal, especially if you're someone who gets impacted. I told you about our partnership with Deputy Gonzalez and Sheriff Vick has been great. You know, he's been supportive of my efforts to try to protect property in the county. And we'll talk a little bit more about the recording notification service, although I have talked about that. Again, it doesn't prevent fraud from happening necessarily. We try to do everything we can in the office. By law, we're not the police. We are the custodians and recorders. But I'm pushing that limit as much as I possibly can without getting myself in a ringer, because I do just think it's that important. It is an issue that I don't want to have any of you experience and ultimately have some sort of major loss, whether even if it's just some of your time in having to deal with the court system, and certainly money. So I'm going to show you, I've got a QR code here that will take you to the recording notification service. If you want that, I'll leave this thing up here. You can come scan that. But what I'd like to do just real quick, if you don't mind, am I okay on time-ish, Rhonda? Am I out of time?
Well, actually, that's funny you asked. Because we do need to get into some stuff about 9/12, but since we're celebrating our 15-year anniversary, will you stick around so that people can ask you questions and talk?
I will. But let me just say two things.
You go right ahead.
Number one, this is my website, and sadly, it looks like I'm wearing the same jacket that I was wearing. But it is a different shirt, though. So you can go to countyclerk.tulsacounty.org. Huh? No, it's not the same shirt. This one's got a pattern to it, the other one doesn't. But you can go to Recording Notification Service and sign up there. It's super easy. But the other tool I want to show you is our locate tool, and it stands for Land Records Organized by County, Clerk, Assessor, and Treasurer. Okay? It is an interactive map that you can see here. I've panned into where we are, basically. And so when I select the parcel where we are, it comes up and says who the owner is. So you can always see the record owner. So if you have some sort of concern that, oh shoot, you know, something might be going on my property or whatever. Well, number one, you need to call me. Call my office, and one of my folks will look it up, or I'll look it up, or my assistant or somebody will look it up for you. But if you just want to look at it on the map and kind of look around at what's going on, you can see who the owner is, you can see the legal description. This has been owned by this church for a long time, so there aren't any documents to support it that are on the list. But like if I go to this one, you can see the deed. And the reason we did this is because I want every resident of Tulsa County to be able to see a copy of their deed if they don't have it for free. And if you, thank you, Scott. My predecessor didn't really believe that way. We still have a subscription service for companies and different law firms and folks that use our records to make profit for themselves. So you can subscribe to all that and stuff. And if you want to do a ton of legal research, you can get on and subscribe for $10 a day or $30 a month to your heart's desire. But this is a free service, and it's really cool. It links you to assessor rights information and Treasurer Fothergill's information on their websites as well. So I'll end there, and thank you all so much, and I will stick around and we can talk about whatever you want. Thank you.